All right. Let's get Facebook in here and we can rock and roll. Wheel spinning. Let's go, Facebook. All righty. There's one. And there's two. All right, folks. Welcome in. Yeah, welcome in. It is Tuesday evening. It's time for an episode of Building the Broncos. We're deep diving the build with Nick Kendell and Lance Sanderson. Carl is out today, being a little sketchy. He wasn't telling us what's going on. Carl, I'm watching you. If you're listening after the fact, we'll find you. But no, happy to be joined by Lance, who I just saw. God, it was over a week ago now. Time flies, but good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too, buddy. We haven't got a chance to sit down and actually have a podcast, you and me together for, man, it's been a while. I mean, we've been on the draft shows. We've been on multiple different Mile High Huddle roundtable shows and whatnot, but we haven't actually got a chance to sit down and just shoot the bull, you and I, one-on-one. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Glad I was able to get stuff taken care of at work and be here to fill in. How are you, dude?
I'm doing okay. Things are progressing on the getting settled here in Denver. So I had 3 different job offer interviews come in the last 72 hours. So things are doing better there. Yeah. So happy about that. It's just it's with the way the economy is and everything and having a kid. I mean, it's like, need to get that all stable and everything.
Well, especially living in Denver, it's expensive there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I hear the dog crying, so I don't know if I'll let him in here at some point. But luckily, Denver is not nearly as expensive as Seattle, Lance. But
that's good.
Yeah. But we're doing well. We're hanging out, and did want to say hello to people in the chat as they're joining us as well. We got Papa Bear in the house, $2 super. God bless you, coming in, hanging out. Always great to see you. He says, "Good evening, Broncos country. 13-4. I mean, 13-4 is within reach right now for the Broncos. Unfortunately, we did get the news, Lance, that the Broncos will be without superstar cornerback, defensive player of the year, probably the best back 7 player in the entire NFL, in Patrick Surtain II.
Right.
He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks here is what's reported by Aaron Schultz. There's kind of been a little bit of back and forth. I think Zach Stevens at DNVR said the initial hope was only, maybe 2 weeks, but it's a little bit more severe of a pectoral strain. We haven't gotten news yet if he's going to be on the IR. Personally, I'm expecting him to end up on the IR at this point. We haven't officially activated Dre Greenlaw too. I saw some tweets today being like, we haven't seen it yet. Same with Nate Atkins. That maybe is a good thing. I feel like a lot of times those moves have happened on Wednesdays and Thursdays for the Broncos. So I'm expecting them to place Surtain on IR, especially the closed lips that we've seen from them. But I'm. It's not the worst because he's going to be back, but it definitely is a blow for the Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing, though, is the Broncos have kind of mitigated the risk of having an injury. It's never a good thing to have the reigning defensive player of the year and the best cornerback in all of football missing games for you. But in this particular stretch of the season, it may not hurt the Broncos nearly as much as everybody wants to think it's going to be. Chris Abrams-Drain played really well against the Cowboys this last week, and that's a tough task. I mean, you got multiple chances against CeeDee Lamb, multiple chances against George Pickens, and he did play relatively well for the most part. You're going into this next stretch of the season. Obviously, the Houston Texans with C.J. Stroud and that passing offense, which really hasn't gained footing this season. Not necessarily a daunting task, but something to look out. Without Nico Collins, I don't believe he's going to play. But
it sounds like he is going to play.
It does sound like he's
going to be active. Yeah, it does. That's the most recent information we saw yesterday has been progressing towards activation. So I am expecting Nico Collins in this upcoming game. Broncos have depth at cornerback. You're never going to be able to completely overcome losing somebody like Patrick Surtain. But luckily, the Broncos, probably their best player is Surtain. Their biggest strength is probably the pass rush, and that is going up against the weakest part of the Houston Texans. Classic of atomic bomb versus coughing baby, if you will, for the brain rot folks out there. But Lance, I'm gonna bop out real quick and let in the crying dog so he can be the mascot like he likes to do, and hop in behind me here. But I'll let you take the chat, and I will be right back.
It's all good, buddy. And so the nice thing, though, what I was trying to get into is this Broncos schedule over the next handful of weeks here. Obviously, you got the Texans this week. Next week, you got the Raiders, who have been struggling offensively in pretty much every aspect. They're not running the football very well. Geno Smith is not delivering the ball down the field. It sounds like the Raiders are potentially interested in trading Jacoby Myers, or there's at least been calls for them to come in, for teams to be able to come and get him. Then you have the Chiefs, November 16th. That's 3 weeks from now. And then you got the bye week. So the Broncos over these next 3 weeks have at least a fairly decent schedule of working up with relatively easier opponents. I don't want to say that it's always easy in the NFL. That's not necessarily the case, but you're not talking about an explosive offense like what we just saw with the Dallas Cowboys. And the Broncos went, most of 3 quarters without Pat Surtain. Like he was hurt early in that game. It was at least the second half he was not playing. And they did a good job against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Pickens still had a good game for sure. And CeeDee Lamb still had 7 catches, I think, for 77 yards, something like that. Solid games, but they weren't exploited by any stretch of the imagination. Chris Abrams-Rain played very well. Jahdae Barron got his first NFL interception playing in the seam against Jake Ferguson to close out the first half. You're not necessarily tasked with, until you hit the Kansas City game, with an explosive offense like that. And Kansas City looks like a completely different monster with Rashee Rice. Then you got the bye week right after that. And then the Washington Commanders, who are currently dealing with a Jaden Daniels injury. He's hurt with a hamstring, and Marcus Mariota's been playing a lot with them. And that offense still hasn't taken another step forward this season, even with Jaden Daniels at the helm. So if there's any stretch this season right now where you could actually expect the Broncos defense to be able to hold up and play well defensively, even without Pat Surtain, this 4 or 5 weeks, 5-week setting of the schedule is probably the best possible time you could actually have something like this happen.
The one thing that really stinks, Lance, is that Kansas City game. I mean, the Broncos having to go into Arrowhead for Christmas. Denver is currently a 1-game. Denver is currently a 1-game lead on the Chiefs as well. And that Chiefs offense right now, I believe the last 4 weeks, is the number 1 passing offense in the NFL in EPA per play. And as you mentioned, they're a different beast with Rashee Rice. Now, the Chiefs had some injuries and some issues. Simmons kind of in and out of the lineup with left tackle with some personal issues. And you have Isaiah Pacheco week to week as well now. Hopefully the Chiefs aren't making a move for somebody like Breece Hall with that move, but we'll see. But that Chiefs game is going to be so important. So on the whole, you're correct, and that is still just 1 game for the Broncos, but it's probably the biggest game of the Broncos this season, and the one that you probably want Surtain the most. I don't think there's any chance he's going to be available for the Chiefs game based on what we've heard, but we'll see. One other caveat, important to note, because I didn't know the rules here for this one. Sure you did, Lance. Eric corrected me on it as well, but the IR is not 4 weeks; it's 4 games for the Broncos. So the Broncos essentially get a free extra week by placing Surtain if they do place him on IR, because he would. Well, I guess it's kind of unfortunate. You can't activate him until after the Commanders game, so it would carry over for the bye week. I think that's put it out there for Mike Kliss was about the rules there for that one. So he would be out for those 5 weeks, but 4 games. So we'll see. We're on watch for that. We're also on watch for Nate Atkins' injury, suffered a knee injury. And based on the moves of the Broncos, we haven't heard anything yet specifically other than knee, but based on the moves of the Broncos, this might be a season-ending injury for Nate Atkins. If not, something that maybe he'll be back for the playoffs. But Broncos failed in the waiver wire. They needed to meet. I don't know if you're a fantasy football person, Lance, but I would love us to move to FAB budget, the free agency allocation budget. So there's a little bit more strategy rather than just giving the top of the waivers to the worst team every time. And are you actually getting good players from waivers? They're important, but I'd love a little strategy or something there. But the Broncos lost on 2 tight ends, one going. Oh gosh, I don't have it directly in front of me. I'm trying not to have too many tabs open. But 2 tight ends way above the waiver wire for the Broncos. The Broncos
can pull it up
for sure, and the Broncos also brought in Mercedes Lewis, who was a first-round pick way back in. God, it might have been like 2006 or something. Lance, he was on that same UCLA Bruins team as Maurice Jones-Drew, who he's been out of the league for a long time. So Mercedes Lewis, always enjoyed him. He's much more of a blocker. Did some good work with the Jags, the Packers for numbers of a year, but Broncos are a little desperate working out the well, I guess we can call him Gramps. He's not even Unk. He's Gramps in Mercedes Lewis and adding somebody. So I'm worried about Atkins, and I'm worried about this tight end room.
I'm right there with you. I'm still trying to find the Mike Cliff's tweet that actually had the information on that, and I'm struggling to do that right now, jumping back and forth between his old account.
I think it was Schefter who had it.
Was it Schefter that had it? Okay, well, regardless, it was I think one was Ben Bates from.
There's Eric in here.
Yeah, Eric's in here saying, "What's up, buddy?" A rare show with Lance and Lance. Yeah, you know what? To hell with you, Eric. Good Lord, man. Why you got to be so mean?
He keeps calling me Lance on accident. So that's
really?
why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's done it like 3 times in the last week.
Still trying to find it, but regardless, I'm right there with you, dude. Like whether it's Mercedes Lewis or if they want to make a trade for another tight end right now, this tight end room with Adkins, with Lucas Kroll getting, I believe Lucas Kroll had a foot surgery as well. So you're really starting to stretch the depth of this tight end room. They need to bring somebody in. And kudos to Evan Ingram, who for the first 3 weeks he had the hamstring injury in there and was not active for a couple of games. But every time now, it seems like he's touching the football field. He's making good things happen as a receiver. I believe 5 of his receptions this last week went for first downs. Every single one that he caught went for first downs. If you're getting that kind of production from a tight end, even though you want the explosive plays from a playmaker like that, you're still at least getting him incorporated into this offense. And it's starting to become very, very fun to watch. The one play that I really wanted to highlight here is that it was a tight end screen pass. They had Evan Ingram lined up in line it was a 3-by-2 set. Evan Ingram was lined up in line, attached on the line of scrimmage. They run a screen route. It was just a simple little arrow route to the outside. 2 blockers in front of him. Evan Ingram makes a nifty snag, runs for like 9 yards in a first down, puts the Broncos to the 1-yard line. It's schemed up plays like that where Evan Ingram can really start to have a true effect on this offense. And I think that you're starting to see that now over the last handful of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Evan Ingram's going to be big going forward for the Broncos' ability to beat man coverage, hopefully. And we do have the tweet here from Adam Schefter, and he's obviously got some Broncos connections and puts this out. So typically he's a newsbreaker, so I thought this one was interesting for Schefter to say Broncos put in waiver claims for 2 tight ends, Brendan Bates and Ben Sims. Cleveland had a higher claim and was awarded Bates. Minnesota had a higher claim and was awarded Sims. I think this is interesting for multiple reasons. Obviously, Schefter also was on, I believe it was the Pat McAfee show today. I could be wrong about that. Whoever he was interviewing had Iowa stuff on. I think McAfee has an Iowa person in the background there. I think Barstool might too. I don't even know. But regardless, Schefter was on there, and he said the Broncos have been on the wide receiver market. But this is one of those, I think, watch what I do and not what I say situations, because this says we're hunting for a tight end. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a needle-moving tight end necessarily. I mean, Lance, how many needle-moving tight ends are there actually in the entire league to begin with? But somebody who can come in, fill in Atkins' role somewhat, and maybe also push Troutman as well. And the thing that's interesting about this for me, Lance, is 2 of the tight ends who have been linked to the trade market are directly tied or play for the 2 teams that picked up these tight ends in waiver wires. You have Cleveland with David Njoku, and you also have the Vikings with TJ Hawkinson. So obviously there's some contractual stuff with the Broncos that makes any move for those guys tough, but where there's a will, there's a way, obviously. And we'll keep an eye on it. I'm not necessarily a cap guy per se. So I don't know exactly all the maneuvering of the money, but I think if it's push comes to some, the Broncos could probably make a move. And those are 2 tight ends, given those moves, maybe are available on the market.
Well, and the nice thing about those 2 players is they can both line up attached on the line of scrimmage and actually be an ass kicker in the run blocking game, but also bring you explosive playmaking potential at the tight end position and be mismatches over the middle of the field. Like, to me, that's really what this offense is missing right now. And I know I just went off on Evan Ingram a little bit, but they don't really have a true mismatch over the middle of the field right now because they're not utilizing Evan Ingram in that way. They're utilizing him more in the quick passing game rather than stretching the field vertically, which is something that this offense has been missing in general. how many different times, Nick, have we seen this team miss on deep shots, whether it is to Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, a handful of different times? Like the deep shots are just not there. And I think the missing that aspect and also missing the impact from 10 to 19 yards between the numbers. That's one of Bo Nix's. I don't know the numbers after this game against the Dallas Cowboys, where I know he had a couple plays in that particular area. But coming into the Cowboys game, he'd only completed 6 out of 10 total passes between the numbers and 10 to 19 yard area. He's just not exploiting that area. And
yeah, I think you were talking about Evan Ingram.
Yeah. Did you break up? Nick, are you there?
Yeah, sorry. No, I broke up for a second. You mentioned Ingram being utilizing the quick game more, like probably in the flats and whatnot. Yep. Also, stretching defenses horizontally. Sometimes you do wonder if it's chicken or the egg, right? Like, is that Bo Nix not necessarily pushing the middle of the field as well? In this last game, I believe, I'll just give a shout out to the Athletic Football Pod. They had the statistic. I don't know if it was 10 to 19, Lance, but middle of the field, that first interception was a middle of the field target. After that, I think Bo Nix went 5 for 5, targeting the middle of the field for like 125 yards. So again, it's so hard to say. In middle of the field, it's not just a Bo Nix thing. It's harder for teams across the NFL right now. I think they're probably more afraid of how much teams are utilizing creepers and simulated pressures of linebackers dropping into spots that they don't see them. I mean, we saw that with Jackson Dart specifically in that game. The lined up in a mug linebacker and boop, there he is. Throw it right at him. So it's not just a Bo Nix thing, but it is something the Broncos have to utilize more. And again, Ingram's a little bit more of a hybrid wide receiver tight end. Getting somebody, if Atkins is gone for a while, that can be a weapon in your more run-heavy packages with 12 personnel. With Troutman there, somebody to displace Troutman a little bit as well. There's got to be some options there for the Broncos. So Broncos working at Mercedes Lewis, that might be a short-term fix while they work the phones, because we are now 7 days away from the trade deadline. So tight end and wide receiver too seems like something. We'll circle back around to wide receiver. I do want to say hello to all the people coming in here. Ernie Mays, go Broncos country only. Great to see you. Got our guy Michael Ronquillo coming in here. Good to see you, Michael. Always appreciate you. Michael also has a super chat for us here. There we go. It says NFL trade deadline in November. Which positions do the Broncos go after to improve the Broncos roster? Go Bo Broncos. Go Michael. Leading us right into it. I think Palczewski has played well enough here at left guard for me that I'm kind of wait and see on that one. Again, Powers is supposed to be back at some point. If Palczewski looking better and better at left guard, I mean, you have 3 spots covered there. Forsyth is your backup center. Are you trading for a backup tackle if things go wrong? That I'm probably not. You're probably. I'll knock on wood. Knock hollow on that one. That's one that if there is an injury, your positions change, but right now it seems like probably wide receiver and tight end are the only 2 spots that make sense for the Broncos to make a move.
I don't disagree with you, Nick, and I think that the one other position that I would think that the Broncos would look at would be inside linebacker. But with the way that Justin Strnad has been playing, especially in coverage over the last handful of games, like he's been absolutely phenomenal. And this was not a role that he was ever destined to be playing in. Obviously with Dre Greenlaw, the injury coming out of training camp, the suspension that he had, Justin Strnad has been playing absolutely fantastic football. Alex Singleton's been all right. There's been still the same situational issues with Singleton, especially as a tackler. He gets himself out of position because he overruns some angles every now and again. But for the most part, he's been very, very good in terms of just being a playmaker all over the field. If you wanted to go and add another depth piece, and we just don't know the injury situation with Drew Sanders, then sure, I could see that. But to me, I think with the rumor that Adam Schefter just put out earlier today, I believe it was on McAfee, saying that the Broncos, the Steelers, and I believe the Patriots was the third team that he had mentioned, have been reaching out to trade for a wide receiver. And then you dropped the name Rashid Shaheed from New Orleans, which would just make poetic justice to what the Broncos have already done with the New Orleans Saints, trading Devon Bailey for a 4th-round pick. You send that 4th-round pick right back for Rashid Shaheed and add that explosive element in this offense that's kind of currently missing. Man, you trade up, essentially go trade up, straight up Devon Bailey for Rashid Shaheed. that's a big time get for this Broncos team. Like, quite honestly, with Bailey and Pat Bryant and Cortland Sutton kind of operating in that same mold of skill set, you bring in another explosive playmaker that's a proven player like Rashid Shaheed, even though he's on the last year of his deal, that could open up this offense in a big way.
And I do think it's a case of almost too many mouths to feed for the Broncos in that case.
Mm-hmm.
But I think any move for Shaheed maybe includes Marvin Mims. I know it's a different role and player, but you have Shaheed's a superstar returner as well. And for the Broncos, with how many different positions you have to go with, maybe you include Mims, and that's the equivalent of a 4th-round pick for the Broncos. So it's like Mims, you send back that Vele 4th or something just for the hilarity of it. Not that I necessarily want to get rid of Mims. I just feel like any move for a wide receiver is probably including a wide receiver being sent back. I can't see them trading Bryant. Again, 3.5 years of control still, just how important he is for the blocking design. So it's probably either Franklin or Mims. I would be a little bit more interested in moving Franklin than Mims just because Mims has that special teams ability. But if you're bringing in Shaheed as well, I mean, he's a awesome kick returner. He's returned, punt returner, 24 so far on the season. So the main punt returner there for the Saints. So we'll see. We have David Kilgore with a couple super chats here. He asks about going after Sauce Gardner. Sauce just signed a huge contract. I can't imagine them being able to move on from him that makes sense for the Jets or for a position. I mean, Surtain's going to be back here soon. The team keeps putting out flyers, not flyers, but all indication that they like Moss. They like Chris Abrams-Drain. They like their 5 cornerbacks. So it's more likely the Broncos, I don't think it's going to happen now with Surtain, but I think it's more likely that they'd trade one of their cornerbacks than they would bring in somebody, especially of Sauce Gardner's caliber. But I like where your head's at, David. He also says, what about Pitts out of Atlanta? Oh, man, Pitts is so intriguing because he's still so young, Lance. I think 24 years old. He had that incredible rookie season. He's had not great offensive coordination with the Falcons this whole time, and he's just such a unique player. I don't think he's necessarily the skill set the Broncos need to round out this roster as far as a Y tight end. I mean, he might be a little bit redundant with Evan Ingram, but he's young enough and just like a rare enough player that as long as the work ethic, mental, dialed in football character is all there too. I mean, I would call just because I don't think you have that much to lose adding somebody like that, where I think the potential is still sky high. Scott would mention something about him being a coach killer because of the talent. He gets got a lot of guys fired, but he's unique, man. He's a unique player. So, I mean, I would call. I don't know if the Falcons are trading though necessarily.
Well, I think that with the direction of this Falcons offense moving forward, and I don't necessarily follow them nearly as closely as you do, obviously doing the Falcons show with Scott, but why would they want to move on from a piece like that? That's the one big caveat I have with it. Obviously you call on everybody and you want to build up the roster as best as you possibly can. We are building the Broncos here tonight. I know it's Dove Valley Deep Divers, but why are the Falcons willing to move on from a piece like a Kyle Pitts, an explosive playmaking option as a pass catcher for a young quarterback in Michael Penix? They have Pitts, they have Drake London, they have Bijan Robinson. What is the real reason why they would want to move on from a player like that? To me, that would make the cost to go and get a player like him too much for me for what the Broncos want to do. And then he's also, is this year 4 for him? I believe it is year 4. So if he's not already gotten a contract extension, you're going to have to pay him again. So how does that tie into with the Broncos and their salary cap situation moving forward? Like that's another big thing is, if you want to tie that piece together and approach it from multiple different angles, it just doesn't make sense. Now, there's a comment up here I want to grab really fast because here's another player. This is from Mile High George. Said, salute, fellas. Why don't we just trade for Mark Andrews and send Franklin because Franklin drops too many passes? Now, we can have a Franklin discussion here in a minute, but Mark Andrews absolutely fits that Y tight end. He's a guy that can line up in line and be a driving force as a blocker for you. He opens up the passing game in terms of stretching the field vertically. Maybe not now is he 28, 29, 30 years old, something like that. But that's a player I'm interested in as well. With the Ravens and their situation, if they lose another game, maybe they could be sellers going into this trade deadline. So that would be another name. David Njoku, TJ Hawkinson. And the guy that we just saw last week, he didn't even record a single catch, Jake Ferguson. Why not give the call to the Dallas Cowboys about Jake Ferguson and see what his availability is there? Like,
yeah, I mean, there's good options there. I do think Jake maybe just signed the contract too recently, maybe even this offseason, but that makes it harder. I don't have it directly in front of me. Another name that kind of sticks out for me as far as a wide tight end, Pat Fryermuth from Pittsburgh, who seems to be reeling a little bit. But some of those veteran guys, maybe there's some cheap options. Like we got a super chat here from our guy, Cody W, asking about Chig Okoronkwo. He's a bit more of the H type, but he's a good blocker in the run game, can be weaponized. I think if Atkins is out for the rest of the season, this is a name that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if he's as good of a weaponized blocker necessarily, but he's a better athlete in the pass game. So this is a name, especially with how we've seen Gunnar Helm playing for the Titans, drafted under this regime and everything. Chig makes some sense too from the Titans, who seem to be wheeling and dealing a little bit. So that's a name I did want to toss out as well. Somebody asked about TJ Hawkinson, brought him up already. Njoku, another cheaper guy that could be available. Lance, we saw him get a big touchdown for the Giants. He's not really utilized so much as the main catcher, but as a secondary tight end. Daniel Bellingham, I think out of San Diego State, pretty good blocker. Not as talented or much of a passing threat weapon as Theo Johnson there for the Giants. But again, you're talking about like a 6th rounder, maybe for somebody just to solidify the room rather than the practice squad waiver wire guys you're talking about, or 41-year-old Mercedes Lewis. That seems like an option. So we're keeping an eye out for the tight ends right now. Again, looking for somebody like a little bit more like a Y. My issue with Mark Andrews, you talk about the drops. I don't know whose comment that was. You brought that up there, Lance. Mark Andrews is one of the most drop-oriented players in the entire NFL. So if you're frustrated about Troy Franklin's drops, it's not going to change with Mark Andrews. But
I was going to say Mark Andrews had that big drop in the AFC Championship game, or it was a divisional playoff game against the Bills, where he dropped a surefire touchdown pass. And this is a play that you should make 100 out of 100 times, and it went right through his hands. So
he's got the drops.
There's that frustration issue there. But I think that to me, especially with Lucas Kroll going down, with Nate Adkins and his knee injury, and Troutman not being great. Let's be honest here. Adam Troutman has not been great in terms of at the point of attack in the blocking game. If you can bring in a guy like Mark Andrews and accentuate that skill set alongside Evan Ingram, I'm here for that life.
Yeah. I mean, Scott's hanging out. We got Phil McLaughlin. Good evening, Lance and Nick. Do you guys think the run pass will be 50-50 against Houston? It really depends on how the defense is playing. I think a lot of this, and this is probably you can correct me if I'm wrong here if you disagree, Lance, but the best pass rushing duo the Broncos have gone against this season. Will Anderson's a top 5 edge rusher in football, and then you got Daniel Hunter, who's probably top 20. I know Denver's edge rushing duo has been great this year, but a lot of people would probably take Houston's duo over Benito and Cooper. Just a little bit more long-term proven ability and pedigree than the Broncos have had here. But I think you're running the ball, and you want to really be a running team to protect Bo Nix and, not have your offense, especially your tackles, on an island. But if you fall behind, you're struggling there, they're really scheming it up well to take it away. Then you might go a little bit more 60-40, using everyone cover their ears, but using the screen game a little bit. Because I think the ball's got to get out of Bo Nix's hands faster. He does a good job of avoiding sacks, and one of the best in the NFL at that. But this is a damn good edge rush duo coming up here against the Broncos. The Broncos have got good tackles, but this is a step up especially compared to the Cowboys, but this is a step up in competition.
Well, it's probably the second best edge rushing duo in the NFL right now. I mean, Will Anderson is playing like a man with his hair on fire, and Danielle Hunter, even at 31 years old, is still incredibly effective. I mean, this is ESPN win rates, pass rush win rate. The Houston Texans right now, pass rush win rate number 6th in the NFL at 43%, run stop win rate at 15th. Like this defensive front is doing a great job. Just they create so much pressure. They're so fast off the line of scrimmage. Will Anderson, again, playing like a man with his hair on fire. To me, you do need to kind of stick with the running game and be effective with what you are as an offense. I mean, the Broncos right now are first in pass block win rate, which is going to be a fun matchup, 18th in run block win rate, but you have the 3rd highest rusher in the NFL in J.K. Dobbins. And this ground game is really starting to gain some traction, especially over the last handful of weeks, even against the Jets, where it was not great, but they still were effective when they did run the ball. They were actually effective doing it. To me, I think the biggest issue here going against this Houston defense is Sean Payton into play calling and sticking with the thing that he has written on the top of his play sheet. You need to run aggressively at this Houston pass rush. Maybe even start to incorporate Bo Nix more with his legs. And that can be something that can unlock another level of this offense. I'm not saying you need to run Bo Nix like you need to run Lamar Jackson, but I brought this up to Chad before on Saturday, before the game against the Cowboys. Why are you not seeing more Bo Nix rushing attempts, like scheduled out, designed rushing attempts with Bo Nix using his legs? You don't have to run quarterback power. Get some zone read action. Maybe run that toss sweep that you ran against the New York Giants that went for a touchdown. Open that game up. Bring that aspect to it, and maybe you can play into the aggressiveness of this interior front four and front seven for the Houston Texans. Get them out of position, utilize Bo Nix's legs, and then everything else opens up. If you've got that aspect to it, guess what, man? I think the Broncos can have some success. I really do. If they can manage to stick with the running game and get Bo Nix more incorporated with his legs, they can actually have some success against this Houston Texans defense.
Yeah, I will say I'm with you as far as Bo Nix using his legs more. I think in this matchup specifically, Lance, I would be holding off a little bit on that just because the Texans are violent and insane in a way that I do appreciate it on your team. But we've seen the hits from Azeez Al-Shaair he's had that one that Trevor Lawrence last year did
big concussion. Yeah, big concussion.
The fencing concussion move. He had another really big hit that, call it dirty, call it what you want, but I mean, he delivers punishment. And then you got Jalen Petrie, who also is a big time explosive hitter and a big physical player that kind of plays the dime backer slot safety for them as well. So I do think that's one I don't mind it too much. I would hope it's a break glass in case of emergency for the Broncos in this one, just because I don't want Bo Nix putting himself out there. Now, if it's man and it's an option like at the end of man coverage and whatnot, and you know that you can pick up some and get out of bounds, absolutely. But I think this is one, unless it's really not working well and in the fourth quarter and you have to kind of do that to get the offense some life, I would personally be a little bit conservative there just because these Houston players, I'm not going to say they're dirty because I like the physical play, but they have some hits where they're pushing against the edges of what's allowed in the game of football.
Well, I think that my biggest point here, and going back to that, and I don't disagree with you by any stretch of the imagination. My bigger point here is how fast they want to come downhill and overrun and get themselves out of position, because they do that a lot. Now they come back and they fire off some big hits, but that defense can get super aggressive. And if you're going to utilize misdirection with the running game, then sure, absolutely. Like I said, I'm not asking for Bo Nix quarterback power. I'm not saying, run into the teeth of the defense, but when you have the opportunity, run some zone read, get some guys that moving in misdirection, or even run that counter toss. And if Bo needs to get down, Bo needs to get down. But you have to incorporate some kind of misdirection in the running game because they do flow aggressively so fast downhill. It's a very good run defense. They do a great job in that aspect, and they do bring the wood. If you can utilize an athletic quarterback like that, get him out on the edges and maybe just pick and choose your advantage points and get some of these second-level defenders like Azeez Al-Shaair or like a Jalen Petrie, who also misses a hell of a lot of tackles. This dude's terrible as a tackler. He's violent when he arrives, but he misses a lot of tackles too. So there's maybe a hidden advantage there if you understand where I'm coming from.
No, I do. I saw that Trevor hit in my head, and he should have gotten down and protected himself, but Azeez scares me. I don't even want to bring up too much history. Do you remember the Joe Mays game against Schaub?
Yeah, Joe Mays, Matt Schaub blew his ear apart.
Yep, we don't need any of that for Bo Nix. You're too pretty, Bo Nix, to be losing any parts of your face there. So we got Ernie Mays. Good to see you, Ernie. Did want to say hello also, of course, to Roy Osborne in the house. Good to see you. Hunter saying, y'all ready to sign a senior citizen at tight end? Yeah, Mercedes Lewis, 41 years old. Absolutely insane. Derek saying Justin Simmons, the best free agent at defensive back. Very possibly, but limited role and didn't have the best year, despite having great safety next to him last year. Good to see. David's in the house. Paul saying hello to the dog as well. He was crying at the door. I had to let him in. Didn't have much of a choice. Daniel
He's
Berry,
very
sports
well behaved, man. He really is a very well behaved dog.
He gets his bad behavior out earlier, but he's good on camera. So we got Daniel Berry Sports. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Amy Alice in the house over on Facebook. Shout out to all the Facebook likes and everything. Viang says 2 birds. It's hit up the Jets for Gardner and Wilson. Wilson just signed a contract like this year, and Gardner did recently. So I don't think financially it makes a lick of sense for them to do that. I don't think it's feasible. It's one of those ones where you go to like, what is it? Spot Rack or whatever, and they say, click the trade this player, and it's like an extra additional 30 million dead cap on the hit this season. It's like it's physically, not physically, that's wrong, but it's financially impossible for some of those trades to happen. Good to see Eric in here booing Iowa. That hurts my feelings. We got a bye week, so boo away. It can't hurt me. They can't hurt me either. I did see Houston Stressens in here saying, hi, Broncos fan, looking at the matchup this week. Me too. I am bummed that Surtain's going to be out because, I mean, it'd be great to see the strength on strength here, and Denver losing their best player is a problem. But and Houston's looked pretty good here these last couple of weeks, Lance. So we'll see how that looks for them going forward. This is crazy. It's like the exact opposite of this Cowboys team, other than they have probably the most underrated star wide receiver in football in Nico Collins.
Yeah. Nico Collins is such a dog, dude. And you're absolutely correct. I mean, going back and watching the game, I watched the All-22 yesterday. I went back and watched the game again before we went live today. This Dallas Cowboys team that the Broncos just beat the hell out of they're piss poor defensively at every single level, especially at the secondary. The Matt Eberflus doesn't know how to design run fits to save his life. There's little discipline coming off the edge. That's a completely opposite of what DeMeco Ryans is doing with this Houston Texans defense. I haven't got a chance to really break it down, but I know the scheme they run. I know how aggressive they are, and they're sound. They're disciplined. They are, and again, very, very aggressive, which I think you can take advantage of that. But still, with the discipline that they have, it's crazy. Now, to the offensive side of the football, I think that Denver's defense, especially their front seven, has a significant advantage up front. Their pass rush is absolutely killing it, obviously leading the NFL in sacks right now. The most pressures in the NFL. I believe they still have 10 more sacks than the number 2 team. I believe it's still the Rams. Regardless, this offensive line has been an issue for the Houston Texans. And they had a good game this last week against the 49ers, but the 49ers are missing pretty much every pass rusher on their roster, except for Michael Williams, who's a rookie who is not necessarily a pass rusher. They added Keon White today via trade from the New England Patriots, so we'll see how that changes up. But Denver with Nick Bonito, with Jonathan Cooper, with Zach Allen, and just a wave after wave of pass rush, and C.J. Stroud not necessarily being the most mobile quarterback. He's more of a pocket passer and does like to, I don't want to say stand like a statue. He's got some nifty pocket motion, but Denver can get after C.J. Stroud this week, and that's going to be the biggest difference maker.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be a big part. I do think, again, the game comes back to, luckily they don't have the offensive line up front, but if you can get them constantly 3rd and long, it's hard for any quarterback to get it done, especially when you don't have the pass protection in front of you. And what do they have right now in terms of the running back position? Woody Marks, who's been a good, fine, 5th or 6th round pick. He's a good pass catcher, but not really much of a threat between the tackles. And then you have Nick Chubb, who, I mean, devastating, with what's happened to him, given the caliber of player he was, and also by all accounts, the person that he is. But I mean, he's a ghost of himself at this point. So Denver, I don't know if they're going to have to do anything schematically necessarily to take away the run, where I thought that was really a key versus Dallas, given I think they're number 2 play action offense, EPA per play coming in. So you're not really running deep play action plays on 3rd and 9 constantly, and they couldn't really get into that in the game because Denver did such a good job stopping the run on early downs. I do worry about Nico Collins, and we did want to say first, Lance, David Youngkin, surgery is over. He's home resting now. Glad you're resting, David. Hopefully you have a good time. Yep, he says have a good night. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning as well, but if not, understandable. But I'm glad to hear you're doing well and feeling better. And I did want to get into this from Houston Stressens again, talking about Surtain being out. Imagine this changes how aggressive Vance Joseph is going to be. I don't think the Broncos are going to change what they're doing. Honest to God, I think maybe some of the rolling of the coverages are going to be different. You can't offer as much help to the opposite side of Surtain. But I think they're still going to be a predominantly cover 1, cover 3 team. I think they're still going to be one of the heaviest cover 1, cover 0 teams, with the blitzing sending 6, sending 5. What I do think changes is that the Broncos, I think, coming out of this week, were like number 2 in havoc rate, Lance, which is like sacks, interceptions, tackles for loss. I think they're number 2 in the NFL in that, while also still being number 2 in the NFL in explosive plays. So like not giving up. The only team that was giving up less explosive plays on defense was the Packers. I'm expecting we're going to get some more explosive pass plays against the Broncos, but I don't think they're going to change what they're doing up front so much. If anything, they might even become more aggressive. Dre Greenlaw being utilized there, Hafanga. Maybe they're sending even more people. They go to the Brian Flores side of things, but I don't think this is all of a sudden going to become a match quarters, cover 6, cover 2, 2 deep safeties to save the cornerbacks. You're never going to be able to replace Surtain, but I would imagine keeping everybody else in their similar roles is probably better for the overall defense.
I 100% agree with that. And quite honestly, I'm not necessarily, how do I say this? I am concerned that Pat Surtain's not going to be there. And Houston, thank you for joining us. And obviously a Texans fan here. Thanks for coming in and having a civil conversation and letting us, talk the game with you. We definitely appreciate that. But to me, it's going to suck to not have Surtain out there. But Chris Abrams-Drain really handled himself well against George Pickens. He handled himself well against CeeDee Lamb and the opportunities that he got there. But let's not forget what Riley Moss is doing right now. And I don't understand the discourse in Broncos country or even across the NFL and what Riley Moss is as a player right now. So I had it pulled up, allow my phone to finally wake itself back up, regardless of I think it's 38 total players with 225 coverage snaps. Riley Moss has the fewest receptions allowed and the lowest reception percentage allowed in the NFL. That's 38 players. And that includes guys like Sauce Gardner, like Pat Surtain, like Quinion Mitchell, like Jalen Ramsey, like the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Riley Moss is playing at, and he's the second or third highest targeted player of those 38 guys. He's getting targeted at a high volume, allowing the fewest receptions out of any of those players, and also is, I think, third in pass breakups. The guy's playing at an incredibly high level. Now, is it going to change with him and not without having Surtain out there? Sure, it's always going to. But with the way that Riley Moss is playing and Chris Abrams-Drain coming in playing as well as he did, am I scared? No. I'm really not. This defense, with the amount of pressure they have up front and with as tight coverages they're playing on the back end, I'm not scared of this Houston offense at all right now. I'm really not.
I do worry about the ability for Stroud to go unconscious, not like, physically, but like the ability to just, we saw it in the Broncos game when he was a rookie. I mean, some of the throws he were making, this is the reason people were talking about him being a top 5 quarterback, top 6 quarterback. Obviously regressed, system not the best, offensive line not the best, Tank Dell injuries, stuff like that. Yeah. But he's a good enough quarterback in the drop back game where he can drop back and beat you. But same exact thing, if not more, proof of concept with Dak Prescott, and that didn't matter a lick last week. So, and that's with a worse offensive line in Houston. But it's a week by week matchup, and sometimes the game plans and not always the players, the game plans as well. And maybe maybe they'll have the Broncos number on this one. I don't know. I think the offensive line is such a detriment for the Houston Texans that they're not going to be able to dictate very much up front, if at all. And that makes it pretty hard. So unless, Stroud has a Justin Herbert week 3 kind of game where it's like, oh, you're hitting like 99th percentile throw over and over again, I don't know if the Houston has the ability to do that from the offensive side of the ball. Now, defensively, they've been winning this Texans team games all season. They're better than the Broncos in DVOA. They're better than the Broncos in EPA per play. They're I mean, right now, I think if you're going to make an argument for the best defense in football, if it's not the Broncos, it's probably the Texans. Maybe Cleveland have something to say about that too if they didn't have a elementary school Pop Warner football team on the offensive side of the ball. But Texans are going to be interesting. This is a real tough matchup. I mean, honestly, Lance, it's always football so complimentary. What's the key for the Broncos withstanding Surtain being out? We can talk all coverages and what Vance Joseph does all day. Can the offense replicate what they've done? Not even replicate, 70% of what they've done the last 5 quarters. Take pressure off the defense, possess the football, score touchdowns. I mean, that is going to be more on the offense, I think, than anything to keep the team afloat while Surtain is out.
No, I agree with you 100%. And something that we've seen over the last 5 quarters, you bring those up specifically because the Broncos have scored, 77 points in the last 5 quarters. What is the one thing that stands out in terms of what the Broncos have done over those last 5 quarters? It's execute. They are executing on the offensive line. They're executing in the running game. They're executing in the screen game. You're seeing Bo hit throws over the middle of the field that he wasn't even attempting to target over there for the first 6 weeks of the season. You're hitting on a couple of deep shots. And Sean Payton continuously designing up the most exotic red zone play calls I think I've ever seen. What he's doing in the red zone right now,
him and Andy Reid.
Exactly. It belongs in the Hall of Fame, quite honestly. The Troy Franklin touchdown where he ran a quick in breaker, turned it back out to the backside on the back end line, wide open for a touchdown. You got another one to Cortland Sutton that unfortunately it was an offensive pass interference to Adam Troutman. The Wildcat snap from RJ Harvey to get another touchdown. That's just this last week. Let's go back to the New York Giants game. Let's go back to the Jets game where what he's doing in the red zone right now, play calling offensively, is absolutely tremendous. It's execution throughout the game, throughout the last, what is it, 75 minutes worth of offensive football. The execution is the big thing. Everyone wants to blame the play calling and blame all the screenplays. Go back and watch the tape and take a look at the execution just up front, from offensive line to quarterback to receivers to everybody blocking to just the whole offensive unit executing is way better in the last 75 minutes of football.
Yeah, and I don't think too much changed play calling wise. They did feel a little bit more pace. Way less throws behind the line of scrimmage, but the screens executed. And I know everybody, rightfully so, really excited about what Bo Nix looked like in this last game. It all starts up front with that ground game. I mean, if you can run as explosive and as consistent as the Broncos did, the whole offense is at your disposal. You have good down and distance. You're making all the players bite coming downhill because, I mean, in theory, it's always like, oh yeah, stop the pass more, but you have to stop the run. It's just like the nature of the game and like the momentum of carrying the game. If you don't stop the run, it's impossible. So hopefully Denver's going to be able to run the football on this one and continue the offensive line. I did hear it a shout out to Zach Stevens for this one. Quinn Miners had been dealing with an injury almost the entire season, and he finally feels healthy. And we were talking about it on all the shows. I'm sure with you and Dove Valley Deep Divers too. Like Quinn Miners hasn't been playing that well this season. This last game he was. This last game he looked like all pro Quinn Miners. So that would be great for the offensive line in the run game. What's great, we got Kenny coming in here. Good to see you. He says offense is. They say a good offense is a great defense. Why not add depth to the deadline? See if Jordan Brooks is available since linebackers are number 1 weak depth spot on this team. You already have Dre Greenlaw coming in here. You paid him a lot, and also in theory you have Drew Sanders coming back as well, who can be utilized as a player. I just can't imagine using resources, both draft capital as well as salary cap, to bring in somebody who is like, how much like better is Brooks going to be compared to Stranad? Is Stranad's already getting replaced for Greenlaw? Are you cutting Singleton? Is that the conversation we've had? I mean, he was dreadful the first 3 weeks, but he's been, league average, I think, week 4, week 5. Granted, league average at linebacker is not a high bar. It's kind of like tight end. There's only 6 great ones in the entire league at any point. The rest of them are kind of jags, but like, I just don't think it moves the needle that much. Honestly, if there's any spot where it's like we could use like a little bit of a niche player on this team, it's a true like 330-pound nose tackle just to vary what you're doing up front. But with the way Malcolm Roach is playing, Wazarike, like really good 3rd-0-1 technique type. I mean, I don't think anything's really necessary there unless you're talking about like packaging one of your young players with a pick to like upgrade, but I'm like, what spot are you even talking about doing that there? Ellis plus a second can get you maybe an edge rusher, but are you starting him over Cooper? I don't know. I think probably right now you're looking at a wide receiver that hopefully, or a tight end. Tight end's the obvious one that can maybe move the needle a little bit. And if it wasn't for RJ Harvey this last game, I might be saying running back option as well, just to complement J.K. Dobbins. But Harvey seems to be getting a little bit more confident each week.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because Eric and I talked a little bit about this going over the tape yesterday in the group chat. What do you think is the biggest issue with RJ Harvey right now in the running game? Because it seems like J.K. Dobbins is continuously finding footing. And to me, what I had said was I think it's more like a pace of play. The speed of the NFL game is something that he's kind of struggling with. And Eric counteracted with saying, maybe it's not the speed of the game. It's just that he's wanting to get going so quickly. Again, one of those chicken or the egg things. With Dobbins, you're seeing the patience behind the line of scrimmage. You're seeing him pick through holes and find some slalom runs and create some explosive plays. RJ Harvey hasn't been able to do that. When the holes are there, he's running for 50 yards. He's going for a 40-yard touchdown. Like he is creating some explosive plays. And when you're only getting 5, 6, 7, 8 touches a game, it's hard to really gain some footing and get used to that speed of the game and also see everything the way you're supposed to. So to me, never mind. What do you think? What is your thought on why RJ Harvey hasn't really gotten ground in the ground game?
I think, again, you kind of touched on it already, but he's not used to being in such a timeshare, second fiddle, and a lot of running backs just kind of get the speed of the game and the pacing. They require a few at-bats. Right now, you're not getting that consistency, which he shouldn't be, because how J.K. Dobbins is playing and his style of play. Like, he's always going to have to be a player who's probably in this role. But for a rookie coming from the Big 12, where tackling has been kind of optional for a lot of those teams, it's not the best defense, I guess, outside of Utah. They play some pretty damn good defense out of Utah, but I don't want to disrespect Willingham like that. But only getting 7 snaps in this last game. Now, granted, making the most of it. Only 4 attempts in the Giants game before that, 2 versus the Jets. I mean, it's hard to really get the pacing on the field of the game with that. So I'm hoping that him being utilized a little bit more in the run game. Some of the mentioned at the red zone or goal to go concepts with him.
Yep.
Great. Yep. Getting him in space quickly. But I think it's just something that's going to take a little bit of time. I wish he wasn't so boom or bust right now, but that might just be kind of offensive line. At the same time, your tight end, Nate Atkins, going down. So we'll figure it out. There's still enough explosiveness there. It's not like, Chris Johnson explosiveness, obviously, but you can see it there. It's a different gear than the other players the Broncos have. So we're hoping to see a little bit more there, but we do want to start wrapping it up here. We got Stella saying, remember to subscribe, and she's also got to be up at 2 a.m. for work. God bless you, Stella. Are you a nurse? Something like that? What's going on there? Good to see you. Appreciate you coming in. We also got Michael saying Broncos are not good in the morning NFL game except for Phillies. They had been, Eagles. They had been poor at 11 a.m. games, but that's just because of the travel a lot of times being away from Denver. We'll see if that's different going forward. The Broncos also bringing in just a bunch, trying to get tight ends in here. Mercedes Lewis for a thing as well. I think this is probably bad news for Atkins, who is probably the skeleton key of the offense right now and what they want to do. So right now, if I had to bet, Lance, I'm thinking Denver does make a move before the deadline for a tight end. But we're keeping an eye out and really happy about the vibes right now. Overall, Broncos, 6-2, got a good game against Houston. This is obviously not a must win for the Broncos, but Denver right now is only 3-2 in conference play, 0-1 in divisional play. It's really nice that they're beating the NFC. When it comes to playoff tiebreakers, that's not going to be as nice. Rather you'd have the wins than the losses, but don't really love having 0-1 in the division, 3-2 in the conference compared to 6-2 on the whole. So hopefully Denver can get a win here, not only get the conference win, but get the tiebreaker head-to-head with Houston as well, who right now is one of the top 9 teams in the AFC for sure. They're going to have to be battling with the Jags probably out there, and Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs, that kind of group right now. Maybe the Ravens. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with the AFC North. Steelers making a lot of moves today. But, it should be a great game. I don't have a prediction right now, but looking forward to it, and a real barometer for Bo Nix. Even if the Broncos, struggle in this game, I think you can see decent offense struggling against good defense versus when the defense is abjectly terrible, which is good for the Broncos to execute. And some of the plays would have been good against anybody, but like, holy guacamole, like Dallas was pathetic. I'm going to just call it as a pathetic. Those are grown men, but they were pathetic out there.
It was bad.
Not all their fault, but they were straight up bad.
All right, we got Cody W jumping in here, a member over on YouTube, guys. Make sure that you guys go and become a member on YouTube, get some exclusive content. I'm trying to work on a series here. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Little inside baseball here. Want to do a show called the 5280 View, where we bring in some people from outside of Mile High Huddle, outside of the Broncos country, and break down some games. But you got Broncos Book Club. You got Kelberman's Korner. Eric's doing some stuff over there on YouTube for the subscribers. So make sure you guys subscribe. Go catch all that content here at Mile High Huddle. Cody W jumping in here with a $5 super chat saying, with Sean's play calling in the red zone, I'd almost place a bet that Harvey throws a passing touchdown in the red zone. Bo did catch a passing touchdown last year. Yes, he did against the Baltimore Ravens. I believe it was Cortland Sutton that actually threw that pass. Going back to it, I mean, you have the RJ Harvey, not only the wildcat snap, but they also then did a running back leak where they leaked him in between tackle guard and threw him a touchdown pass, his first touchdown reception. So, with Sean and the creativity in his play calling and the creativity of his designs just to create open players, open receivers for Bo Nix to deliver the football to, it comes down to the execution, and they're executing in the red zone way higher than they are between the 20s right now. Against Houston, it's going to be interesting because we had Houston, the Houston fan in here saying that the red zone for the Houston Texans is probably their worst aspect of playing. Yeah, right here, Houston's Weston said the Texans' red zone D is their weakest part. So if the Broncos can move the football between the 20s and execute there, then you can unleash Sean Payton as a play caller. If you can get down there, then absolutely execute in the red zone, put touchdowns on the board. And the Broncos have been very good at doing that this season. So it's going to be a fun and interesting matchup. I'm curious to see how this is going to go. I don't have an actual prediction right now, but I do think it's going to be a low scoring game if there's nothing else in that.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, one of these games could snowball if the defense, jumps on somebody, defensive score. So you never know. But yeah, Houston's feel good after clobbering. God, who'd they play? They beat the absolute pants off of whoever they played. I think it was an NFC team. NFC lost every game but one this past week. The Sunday night game, I think, was the only game the NFC won in the NFC head-to-head. Asking about RJ Harvey with the fake stuff. RJ Harvey was recruited to University of Virginia as a dual-threat quarterback and was a quarterback coming out of high school. So it's definitely possible. Phil, we answered this earlier, but we're going to get to it before we get out of here as well. Do we expect them to change very much? I don't think Denver is going to change very much defensively. I think you're going to have to live by the sword, die by the sword. Denver's still going to be a predominantly man defense with cover 3 sprinkled in, cover 0, cover 1. I think Denver runs the second highest rated cover 0 in the NFL, the fourth highest rated cover 1, and then mostly cover 3 on the other end of that. They're not really a too high team. You'll see a safety buzz down. Sometimes they'll show too high, but Denver's one of the highest loaded boxes teams in football, using that safety as an additional intermediate body coming down. So I don't think you're going to live with it. I do think that you're going to live with that. I think your pressure rate and everything like that up front probably stays the same. The area where I would be concerned is I think you're probably going to give up more explosive plays down the field. And that's always scary. Denver's done the impossible this season while being an aggressive team, really getting a lot of pressure, negative plays on the opposing team while almost giving no explosives up at the same time. I mean, if you can do that formula while taking the ball away at a higher clip, that's nirvana of defensive football. Denver's not quite there with the takeaways yet. Last 5 quarters, though, things have changed. So we'll see. That's a very small sample. Same with the offense. But, yeah, I don't think he's going to change very much. Just I would have limited expectations as far as the giving up the explosive plays. I think we will see a higher rate than second in the league.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, dude. I'm excited for this game. I really am. With the way that the Broncos have been performing offensively, especially with the execution over the last 75 minutes, that to me is the biggest thing. They changed some stuff in the building earlier this week. They tried to make Wednesday be more like a Sunday, where they actually had some tempo to the play calling and trying to just get the offense into rhythm. And it turned out, and it worked out really well for them against the Cowboys. I don't remember there being a bunch of like the weird personnel changes. But defensively, I mean, the way this team wins is pressure, tight man coverage, force tight window throws, and with the way that Houston's built offensively right now, yeah, they have the explosive playmaking versatility to be able to do that.
Yeah,
but I don't think I'm not scared of that. I'm really not, because I don't think that you're gonna have time to do that. I think Nick Benito is absolutely going to destroy their left tackle. I think that Zach Allen's gonna have a huge game against their. Who did they bring in for left guard? I don't even remember who it was. I think there's opportunities here. They're not good.
Yeah.
They're not good up front. Like that's the big thing. They're not good up front, and with the way that this Broncos team is just consistently creating pressure, if you don't have the time to throw the football down the field because you're laying on your ass in the pocket, and CJ Stroud, again, not the most mobile quarterback in the NFL, how do you have explosive plays? That to me is the bigger matchup here. Yeah. So
the big Broncos strength being their pass rush is the how I said 49ers. I think that's who they beat. They beat up on the 49ers. The Texans' weakness in the offensive line. So we'll see. Did see your comment, Kenny, about Bellinger. We'll keep an eye on that. I mean, right now, doing the work. Denver's obviously looking for tight end help, maybe wide receiver too. I think if it's wide receiver, you're packaging one of your young guys to add an obvious upgrade. But tight end is the one to me. I'm not much of a car guy, Lance, but like we're pulling into the gas stop and we have a blinking red light going on. That's the tight end position if Atkins is out for a bit. So hopefully they'll add that. Michael also saying, great show tonight, everybody. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming in. Thanks, Lance, for hanging out today. Hopefully everything's going okay with Carl. Make sure you guys are following Lance and myself. Lance is at Lance S_MHH. I'm at Kendell MHH. We're also at Mile High Huddle, Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. We appreciate everyone. Lance, thanks again for coming in. Shout out to all the people who become a member, all that good stuff. I will see you guys again tomorrow morning with Eric. Make sure you're tuning in Friday evening with Lance and Eric as well. And choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos. We'll see you later, folks. Bye.